Welcome to the Psychic Kitchen podcast. Today we have Rick Jewers, Ascended Master, Spirituality, and you can find him at gpms.world as scrolling on the bottom of the screen. We are live, everyone. Please share out. Please like if you're watching this later. How you doing today, Mr. Rick?
I'm doing great, Thomas and Jimmy, and thank you both
Mm,
for having me here. It's a very good,
mm.
energetic environment. So let's see what occurs. I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
It's our pleasure, mate. So do you want to just start off by just introducing yourself, letting us know sort of what you've been up to, what you're doing, how you got here, etc. Um, just kind of letting everyone know.
Yeah. Did you ask that of me? That
Oh
question?
yeah, you. Sorry, yeah, sorry, Rick. Yeah, you, please, mate.
Oh, right. Okay, thank you. Well, let's see. To summarize it and make it very simple,
Mm,
what I wish to say, I was human until around 2011, if you will, and that's when my divinity stepped in, and I knew who I was and connected with Father Prime Creator, if you
mm,
will.
yeah.
Actually, he knocked on my door, if you will, but nevertheless, so now neither are you two, and anyone I come into contact with are no longer human. We got these humanoid vessels, but it's absolutely confirmed and evident. No, we are not the old human prototype. We are the advanced super consciousness, divine being, if you will. So,
Mm,
to keep things short, I use the label
yeah.
ascended master, because many identify with what that is and what it entails. And, it's great description, but to make everything simple, we're all divine. And, there are some that may be privy to some higher divine information, but what we do is we bring it down, we purvey it outward to the
Mm,
rest of our brothers and sisters to raise all boats. And
mm, yeah.
everything I do is divinely multifaceted to that respect. So I do many things,
Mm,
and let me say, I do have a very important, very true divine mission here. And as you can see going across the bottom of the screen, our main website, gpms.world. And
mm,
what this is the replacement system of this current matrix or system, what you have, the evil system. So
mm,
this is the divine system, what is being established through assimilation on earth to advance humanity out of this present savagery and put them into common decency and civility, if you will. So, uh,
mm,
this is quite a role. And what I wish to say with that, yes, I am. It's like Jesus said, He is one with Father. I am, but I'm not the only one. There's
mm,
other brothers and sisters here upon the planet that on earth that have been divinely designated for these roles to transition humanity forward. So we
mm,
all have our individual roles to play, and my role is part of my role is being what we call a guardian for GPMS.world
mm,
to ensure that this platform goes forward. And what GPMS.world is, to keep it
mm,
simple, it's a worldwide referendum for everyone to choose uh, what GPMS.world is. And
mm,
believe me, it's a no brainer choice for anyone once they
mm,
look at what it offers. So we're here to ensure and guarantee that that gets taken forward as well. And,
mm,
there's many with what I do within what I say, all religions and all prophecies worldwide, this time has been mentioned, the golden age, uh, what have you, the rapture, even. all of it
Mm.
outlines it to some degree. It's all the same. So these are the times we're in.
Yeah, certainly. Would you sort of something that just sort of popped into my head just now was obviously what we're going through and what we're going to be going through. Do you think that this is a unique time insofar as we've never been through this before, or do you subscribe to sort of the idea that we've been through this many times just now, and there's been resets previously?
Excellent. You know, what I wish to say to that is that we are in unprecedented, uncharted times, at least for all of this existing humanity. Now,
Hmm.
I do agree and concur, if you will, with, let's say, not to put an exact word, but let's use every 26,000 years there was a reset of
Yeah,
reality.
yeah.
But what we wish to say also, what is interesting, more recently than that, somewhere
Mm,
around 16 to the 1800s, there was
mm,
a shift in reality. But
mm,
to, answer your question is that we are in an unprecedented time to what all of humanity knows now. And
yeah.
part of that preparing for the higher shift, is
Mm,
the beautiful discoveries of ancient archaeology, ancient devices that are defying the history. So it's all coming and culminating to this time to prepare
mm,
for the advancement of humanity. You could
mm,
also say that this occurs, periodically every 26,000 years. The ones that are here
mm,
advance out of their perspective, out of the old reality. So there's many perspectives and analogies you can use, but each in them all are part of the same thing. We're going into a new reality, and that's what's occurring, to keep it simple.
Well,
okay.
how do you feel like with humanity right now, with everything that's happening? Because I see with a lot of clients, they're breaking down. They're like, it's like their higher selves are trying to turn online, but they're fighting it. What's your thoughts on that?
I agree. Yeah, yeah. It's many are subjugated. There is the nefarious element here as well. You can label it evil or what have you, or the resistance, but it is very
Mm,
real. So, having said that, and the work that I do too, Thomas, I see what is like relapses in the past in consciousness. You'll have someone going full forward in their empowerment. They begin to experience and witness some of the miracles that come from the abstract forces of creation and what we are. And then, they'll seem to forget them and just regress.
mm,
And part of that is the overall energetic environment, of the earth.
mm,
So some of the evil tactics are to create these fear propagandas in these fear energetic things, because what happens when they're able to create the fear, get enough to believe it, it
mm,
lowers the veil of the consciousness. So we are, I like to say, as perhaps both of you would attest to, we
mm,
already won the battle, but we're
mm,
playing it out with these humanoid roles to take it to fruition.
mm,
And having said that, yes, we have already persevered, but we're going through these actions yet to raise the others up in the higher levels of consciousness and common sense.
mm. Interesting. Yeah. How do you view past lives? Do you do you believe that we have past lives? Do you remember yours? If so, because I know obviously Thomas, you remember yours, don't you? Do you
Well,
Rick? Do you remember your past lives? If you,
Not per se, just a couple flashes or glimpses that I need to know.
yeah,
With the role
I
that I play, yeah, with the role that I play in this now, I've only been in, let's say, Earth, this dimension, 3 times. This is my own third incarnation here, and I only
Oh, right.
come at important times. But
Mm,
having said this, yes, many here, there are some perhaps had 1,000,000 lifetimes on
mm,
earth, and
mm,
what have been given with my communion and with Father and what I call divine counsel is that
mm,
the reincarnation loop was also here. It was something like a nefarious device that had created a false heaven. But the
mm,
great news is in 2015, that was taken out of play with this
mm.
whole story. So now no one reincarnates, if you will, back to the old misery and what they call ancestral karma. These things don't exist any
Oh, yeah.
longer.
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. So humanity is actually broken free of all of that.
Mm,
So
mm,
answer to your question, yes,
mm,
reincarnation was real, but
mm,
now it's not. These new children coming in are incarnated souls to take everything forward and
okay.
to
Mm,
establish a firmer foundation,
mm,
at least for this generation now.
mm,
So it's
mm,
Well, even with some of my past, I mean, I remember some of them, but one thing I keep getting the hit on because I was one of the high priests of Atlantis when it fell. Um, I think we escaped, a lot of us escaped to Egypt, but I feel like the same thing's happening on the earth again. It's like they're giving us another chance, if that makes sense.
yeah. Let's say partially, yes. What I wish to say, what I was given with Atlantis, like the Inca civilization, um, uh, Lemuria, and what have you, you know, with all of these, they ascended out of this reality. So to keep, if you will, until the right time, the Atlantis memory imprint that was not true, it was to make it look like Atlantis sunk. Because if each one of you, or I was not here in Atlantis, but if each one of you that was here in Atlantis knew the truth in your consciousness that you actually ascended at that time, then you would not be doing your divine role here. So, this is why the divine knowledge is also limited and delivered to each incrementally as we go forward, because everything that you have in your consciousness and all of your knowledge, it's attributed to everything you do, and it changes everything. So there is a divine regulating feature, if you will, to ensure that. That's
mm,
why, what I say in our soul, we already know everything because we exist for all time. But
mm,
what's happening is marginally and incrementally, more of that knowledge from all time is being released into the consciousness.
mm.
Do
Okay.
you
Yeah.
feel like it's like these, like Atlantis, Tartaria, even the previous ancient civilizations destroyed by cataclysms and redone? Do you just feel like a lot of these civilizations just advanced into a higher level of consciousness?
For the most part, yes, yes. What we are doing now, if you will, we are reversing the fall from grace, if I can use that expression, down into the lower density. So now, as we traverse our way back up, we are taking out of reality the memories, the negative memories, what
Mm,
caused the fall. We're replacing them with positive and more of the truth, which raises us back up out of this dense spectrum, if you will,
mm,
in these lower dimensions. So this is
mm,
what's occurring because everything is consciousness. We are
mm,
conscious co-creators. So we are now creating our way. Um, we are now rising in grace. So our deepest fall, our deepest descent was here on earth with the capitalistic evil participants. But now we are raising up out of that. And this
mm,
is what, I put the labels on GPMS.world, what we are doing, we're doing it tangibly and materially, gathering everyone onto the ark, if you will.
Yeah.
Now, what's happening currently worldwide, you'll see a lot of these floods. And yes, it does play part and parcel into reversing what occurred. Because typically in the past, if you will, we need to hold true with the promise from Prime Creator that the world would not be flooded again. So to have this set up in the experience, the whole world is not being flooded, but the grave and stark warnings are there that cannot be ignored. You know, for example, with all these recent floods, look at the one in Italy, if you will, and 7 inches of rain within 24 hours. And, you know, more notably at this time in the US. I mean, look at where you're at there, Thomas, what occurred in North Carolina. You know, these are unprecedented floods with really no meteorological explanation for them, because they are they are um, a combination of the abstract divine forces, but they're also a culmination of negative energy that is creating these storms, the fear energy from the people in the souls, unbeknownst to them. The more that they become the masters and co-creators of their own reality, they're becoming stronger. And if they are in fear mode, they have more of a fear effect.
Sorry, go on, brother.
Well, my theory is that, so all these people are like angry, fearful. That therefore affects like the collective consciousness. It affects the weather. It affects how people react to each other. I mean, I had a live where I went into the hurricane and I just put it live because I was doing it and try to like calm it down. I know a lot of other spiritual workers did too. But yeah, I don't think people realize just how much negativity is being pumped out to the human collective. But it's like trying to get that stop is the key. Because the human brain from a psychological perspective will react more to a negative reaction than a positive reaction.
Absolutely. Yeah. In the past, though, we're co-creators, so now we're changing it. But you know what I watched with Hurricane Helene, if you will? It was not even formed in the Gulf of Mexico, and there were things coming out online that it was a Hurricane 5, which was interesting. So, you know, this was the clue that, if you will, the resistance was putting this propaganda out to create it beforehand. And they did. And, you know, because again, what I wish to say, the evil, the resistance herself cannot create. So they manipulate the human souls or consciousness to create for them. And this is a prime example of what occurred with this in this time.
Yeah, that's I've watched Max Spears stuff. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but that's basically he says. He basically says, so he's no longer with us, unfortunately, but he says that those, whatever you want to call them, they can't create themselves, so they have to sort of use the energy of the humans or whatever, or of everyone else to create what they want. And then they feed off that and use that to create the events or whatever it is that they need to be able to sustain themselves. But how do you deal with events like this when you see that? How much attention do you pay on sort of current events, what's going on in the world, and how do you deal with it personally? You know, what do you feel? What sort of things do you do to sort of combat the fear or the propaganda that's put out there?
Well, I love what Brother Thomas said there because it is correct as well. You know, part of our divine direction at times, or you're asking me the question is if we need to go into something as devastating as Helene, you know,
Mm,
to weaken the force of it, we will be called. My role was that, yes, after. Uh, Before it hit landfall, I was called to put out to the ones that are resonate with what I put out that we need to strengthen the magnetic field. But what was occurring, many other groups and ones like Thomas, they were all doing different applications to it. But
mm,
again, overall, it had the divine priority to do what it was doing, meaning that it didn't matter what we did, it could not be prevented because it serves a divine uh, prep, uh, purpose. So it was
mm,
overridden divinely by what we do. Now, with this, part of what I do is I oversee all of these events, and also I'm divinely served, if you will, what is going on. Um,
mm,
in particular, with all of the flooding, but a deeper, if you will. A small divine architecture team that
mm,
we work, you know, with our remote powers or and abilities and our
mm,
divine abilities. I believe last March we had constructed, I think it was last or this March that went by, we constructed a divine device to minimize the water on Earth, if you will. We knew
mm,
this was coming, the widespread flooding.
mm,
So we did take our divine measures to mitigate the extensiveness of the flooding. However, the flooding is serving a divine purpose to catch one's attention. You know, in
mm,
the least, it's aligning with them looking at it and saying, you know, I heard something maybe in the Bible or I read something. So then it's getting them more in aligned with the higher consciousness and what is going on. And,
mm,
you know, at the basics of that, they have to change their ways. And that's what it's, you know, it's one of
mm.
its purposes, if you will.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, makes sense. And divine knowledge. Um, how do you access it, or is it just something that comes to you? If someone sort of, if you had any sort of, I don't know, tips. So, for example, we wanted to access divine knowledge. Is it something that just happens to us naturally? It's innately, and we get what we need when we need it, or was it something special that you did, or that someone could do? Do you know what I mean?
A beautiful question. You know, it's many of those things, and also
Mm,
it depends upon the individual here and the role
mm,
as to what they're to play. For I, and what I say is, all of us have the script. It's in our soul. It's in
mm,
the seat of our soul. We already have it.
mm,
However, it's only released in accordance with the divine roles that we have to play.
mm,
Now, in my circumstance, and of course, not to be egotistic, but to be divine, my
mm,
case was different. I
mm,
did not I did not, from the human aspect, ask for my divinity because
mm,
it was unbeknownst to me then. And one of the funny things I have with Father Prime Creator is, you know, he said, you were so well disguised, you didn't even know yourself, which is typical for all of us and
mm,
so true, you know, to the deepest
mm,
extents.
mm,
So, having said this, we exist for all time. Is the truth of that.
mm,
But getting back to it's released incrementally
mm,
in alignment with the roles that we must play. So the divine knowledge for I, a lot of it is released from within, but
mm,
also with my communion with Father, Mother God, even as well.
mm,
Then, if there's questions that I have here, I will
Mm.
ask and receive. Sometimes I won't receive answers, and
Mm.
then there are other times that it just comes. And a blatant example of that was last night with my divine partner Femke and I. We were laying
Mm.
down around 2 a.m. Romanian time, which is I think 2 hours, probably midnight
Mm.
UK time.
Yeah.
Uh, we were just getting ready to go to sleep, and I got the divine instruction. Uh, I had to speak it out loud for Femke and I to bring in
Mm.
energy down our vertebrae, down our spine, and but to keep a long story short, I put out posts about it today
Mm.
because after the fact, then we had the X flare and
Mm.
the 33,
Mm.
the 33 vertebrae, everything all aligning.
Yeah.
So but getting back to the point of that, I was getting ready to go to sleep with the humanoid Rick, and all of a sudden, no message come in. Femke and I had to do that exercise, and I
Yeah.
didn't know until 3 o'clock today, if you will, that there was the actual assigned
Mm.
divine X flare as well to complement this for all. So comes
Oh.
in different ways. Yeah.
Mm. Excellent. So sort of there's no schedule. It just comes in whenever, basically.
When we need it. And this is the thing for all of us, yes, to trust
Mm.
divinity and follow the divine prompts, what you're given. Trust
Mm.
yourself always, long as you're in the heart, you're a good soul. This means you never do anything wrong and you're
Mm.
not harming anyone. And if anything negative occurs outside of you, it's
Mm.
for your own mastery and your own development,
Mm.
to choose the better ways, because
Mm.
we are the peers and examples for this whole evolution of humanity into at least the super consciousness and out of the
Mm.
sadistic, savage insanity. And that's
Mm.
truly what it is there. And I know both of you would concur with that, like so many others. It's absolutely preposterous and ridiculous in this world. But
All right. So, I don't know. Funny enough, I was going to ask you about mother. Is there a mother prime creator? Because I know you mentioned father prime creator, and
yeah,
how are they different? Are they just masculine and feminine of the same sort of
yeah,
being?
the genders do play the role, and it's so important that we have the genders. For
Mm.
example, there would not even be down on this level the procreation with a masculine and a feminine, which
Mm.
creates. So,
Mm.
having said this, yes, there is a mother and a father. Prime creator. It's
Mm.
not just one, and it has to be for however many dimensions it is until we
Mm.
get up into, let's say, perhaps a well balanced androgynous being. But what
Right.
we're looking at, what's so important here, we have to have a harmony and an equality, especially between the genders,
Mm.
the sexes, but not only the sexes, the energies also are gender aligned:
Mm.
magnetic, feminine, electric, masculine,
Mm.
masculine consciousness, electric, feminine, heart,
Mm.
magnetic, and we have to have the harmony in
Mm.
both of these working together in this time to create the harmonious world. So you have
Mm.
all these distortions that have to be aligned and upscaled to
Mm.
take humanity forward. So, with that, yes, there has to be a
Mm.
mother god to identify with the
Mm.
feminine. If you did not have that, it would
Mm.
be biased, it would be patriarchal, where we're not going. And if you only had mother creator, it would be matriarchal. That is
Mm.
imbalance. It doesn't work that way.
Rick, do you feel there's certain leaders that need to come to, because the message I've gotten through channeling and my guides and the higher self, God, there need to be certain people that start leading everyone else to this new ascension, kind of like Jesus or Buddha or Krishna or any of these beings that have come before?
Absolutely. Here's three examples, the three of us right here with what we're doing. Where your focus and your insights are directed to. We are just three of these examples, but the beauty of it, what I've been given by Father, is that there's around right at this time about 5 million of us divine designees upon the planet to be the peers and the examples and the leaders, what you said. But see, what also occurred with this is that there's many controlled opposition from the resistance that put them out there that are false prophets also. So we're contending with those false narratives that the false prophets, if you will, have encapsulated, some that are awakening, and kept them distracted in places of complacency, expecting a false narrative that, let's say, governments and banks are going to do, this magic thing for the world, which is not true. And it's a divine tactic designed to keep the ones complacent while the dark agenda keeps pinging off individuals, if you will. And, it's a heavy consciousness psyops to that degree. But again, we did not come here to lose. We have all of the divine arsenal to break down all obstacles. And with that, one of the virtues you're divinely taught is to have the patience. Yes, we're making incredible leaps and bounds, but it still requires the patience with this tedious divine job that we all have, these divine roles.
It is. And I remember seeing a few years ago about, I can't remember, the name of it has escaped me, but there was this promise of everyone's debt would be cancelled and we'd all get millions of pounds or dollars. And the old system collapsed and the new one comes in, and it was supposed to be happening soon. But nothing has happened. I mean, that's not to say it won't, but this is supposed to happen a few years ago. But it's kind of goes when you mentioned it about certain psyops and certain things were put in place to keep everyone sort of subdued and reliant on someone else to do the work. And they're taking care of it, so I don't need to do anything. I can't remember what it was called, but that kind of reminded me of that.
Yeah, exactly. And it's what they call a currency reset and RV and these sort of things. If you go online today, you will find that very cheaply from brokers, you can buy these currencies and what have you. So if there was any merit to what they're expressing, these would be obsolete to the degree that they would not be sold on the market at very cheap prices. So that's only one indicator to prove the fallacy of these. And again, we're not to expend so much time on proving that it's not real. We need to keep our focus on those that have risen above it and that are in alignment with the new world, so we get this created quicker. We don't want to get caught in that illusion, although we are well aware of it and we know it's there. Still, our main focus at this time is gathering as much of the light, if you will, to transition humanity. And the vehicle that we have is GPMS.world to do that. And anyone that looks at GPMS.world, it's both logical and divine. So it is the complete bridge, if you will, that someone does not even need to be awake to vote in it and to choose it now. So it's been simplified and it creates the divine heaven on earth effect, if you will. So, yeah.
And I guess, what was I going to say? Do you feel as though how do you discern who is kind of controlled opposition and who is sort of to be trusted? Because it feels like the more that they broadcast the plans of what they want to happen, it's almost like we should put more discernment on the things that are popular, because that feels like that's what they want to create, so therefore they're shoving it in our face, whereas what they don't want necessarily is silenced almost.
Well, what we say is for everyone, as you're saying, to stop for a moment, put yourself in a state of neutrality, and look at what you may be following, what you are dependent on outside of yourself, and just look at it really. And does it make sense? And if it's not empowering you, and if you're waiting for someone else to do it, then that is part of the red flag that's associated with it. Ideally, we to create the new reality, we need to all be standing shoulder by shoulder, not putting some false idol on a pedestal and following and believing for years everything that they say when there is no tangible material action or evidence for it. So, with this, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to figure it out. It's it's logic and it's common sense, but also, as we know, with common sense in the past it might have been hard to find, but in these great times we're finding it more and more, with the great unity what's occurring, and we're so grateful for the internet to bring all of us together at this time. But with each, think for yourself, for a moment, because as these false narratives have evolved over time, each time when they can't produce, thousands or perhaps a million times, how many times must one be fooled? So just take a minute and look at it, with it. And this is partly what we say with gpms.world. It's fully transparent. We had our panels. Our panel we are putting out. We called it 72. That was because Father wanted the 72 identity on it, but we're put this out public to the world. It's ones like you and I. We are the real thing that is transparent with the GPMS platform, if you will, showing everyone, come on, the power is with the people, not with this dismal 5% elitists. This is the problem with the capitalistic system. It was meant to control. That's why they put humanity under the illusion that only banks and governments could create money, when that is the lie and that is the deception. So GPMS activates our God-given, inherent, intrinsic rights and value. And because of that, each one of us can create money. Right now, each one of us right here, yeah, if you're online, if you had access into the financial routing system, you could type in money for everyone, so, and I love the America of America, for being so notorious, if you will. And I loved Helicopter Ben with the quantitative easing, how miraculously the Fed, if you will, would create the money out of thin air. But more recently, we can look at the Ukraine. So you see, perhaps it's in the $1 trillion now. I don't know. But when you look at that and you look at 1 million in the past, but the numbers are bigger, American being homeless on the street, no social security, not even looked after, yet miraculously in the span of a year or so, all of this money is created to support a war, if you will, and to fund it. So
I
the
know.
point I'm making again is that the U.S. was very good with showing that you didn't need nothing, you didn't need anything to back a currency other than the thought to create the money.
Mm,
And that is the
yeah.
creation, and we all have that. You don't
Mm,
need gold. There would not be any value on gold or silver if we were not here. So it becomes obvious that we are the true source of all value, and we
mm,
have our choice where we wish to assign that value. And it's stupidity to
mm,
assign that value outside on gold or silver, where gold and silver, any precious metal, any commodity, any resource would not have any value if we didn't assign it value first. So,
mm,
what we're doing now is assigning the intrinsic value to create unlimited money, because
mm,
what's going to occur is humanity is evolving to the place where you don't need a medium of exchange, no money at all. It's
mm,
all the civility and
mm.
sharing in community.
Yeah, so it's kind of going back to sort of maybe how we used to live, where everyone was in, say, a tribe or a community, and they all had separate roles, and they all shared everything with each other, and they all basically helped each other out. Whatever someone needed, they would be provided for, and there was no, oh, you can't have that because you haven't got enough money, or you haven't got whatever. There was no scarcity, or there was no I don't know, meanness, I suppose.
Exactly, yeah. So you could extend that micro example out to all of Earth. So all of
Mm,
Earth is becoming this community, and where
mm,
everything is energy. Where with GPMS dot world, the new reality, where
mm,
everyone has everything. There is no lack. There is no fear.
mm,
Everything is energy. So there is no longer any stress,
mm,
and with this, we raise the entire vibration of the planet, which opens the door
mm,
for the public extraterrestrial
mm.
landings, if you will. So it
And then,
sets the stage for that as well.
yeah, but with that though, there also, I feel like there needs to be an element of self-control amongst the people, because otherwise someone could just say, oh, I want that, and just go and take it. Um, so there needs to we need to exercise an element of self-control. Otherwise, people are just going to let their greed sort of overrun, and that kind of can end up destroying the community, because people are going to expect things if they're giving things for free. Did you see what I mean?
No, see, it takes away any incentive for the one to, when they have everything,
Mm,
there is nothing. If one goes and steals from another, but because the society has everything, it
mm,
doesn't matter. So it doesn't make sense for anyone to have a personal incentive of any gain, because with the new world, it's no longer a profit and loss, profit at someone else's expense, which is
mm,
the old capitalistic system. That is not this world. When everyone is sharing and
mm,
thriving, there is no reason to pillage.
mm,
There is no reason for greed. There is no incentive for
mm,
personal gain, because
mm,
everyone has the equal access to abundance, and this is the difference with it. So
mm,
then there is no one that is selfish any longer, and there's no need to have that fear of being selfish and looking out
mm,
for oneself, because there is no lack in this
mm,
world. When you
mm,
look at the planet, for example, with the amount of food that is produced now, it's more than enough to feed the entire world's population. Yet we have almost 1 billion each day are going to sleep each night hungry. Now,
mm,
that itself is ridiculous. But when you look at right now, the way things are, that there's more than enough food growing. But
mm,
with GPMS world, all of the technology um, and let's say everything you need to grow food and advanced ways to grow it. And because everything is free with GPMS.world, as soon as this comes in, you can feed 10 times the population on Earth within a matter of months. And, some of the ways that this is done with this direct divine innovation is when you have 19% or whatever it is of the planet that is a desert and rock. But once, let's take the deserts, the huge desert areas, they become oases is once that money is no factor. You can put drills and wells into the aquifers under these deserts, and they sprout up instantly in an oasis, if you will. And what this does, not only does it provide more food, but it provides more space for humanity to spread out a little bit more as well. So see what occurs, and this is true, and because this has occurred for millennia or for centuries, if you will, every time that there was advanced technology delivered to Earth in the past, it was confiscated and taken by the evil, the resistance, and kept from humanity. However, we are in the time that all of these new technologies will be owned by the human souls, by the people of the planet. If you take the primitive 3D printers, look at what they're able to do. So look at the technology that you already have here, and look at the ultraviolet blue light for cleaning and purifying water. Look at the salination devices. So once you take money completely out of the equation for those, with what GPMS does, then you have mass manufacturing of all this technology to benefit humanity as well. So there's, with GPMS alone, it is extensive and it's all inclusive for the new world for humanity. And I don't, wish at this time to get into the particulars and details of it. And it's best for anyone to just go check out the website. We got a good page on there. A comparison page says compare what you have now to what GPMS offers. And I think we have, excuse me, I think we have about 52 provisions or articles there. And once they look at that, it becomes again, a no-brainer choice. Now, who's going to run this, if you will? Well, it's all the good divine souls. If you went to take a poll today in your city where you're at, Jimmy, or where you're at, Thomas, when you ask people, what do you want for this world? They just want to be happy. They want to be in peace. They want to be stress-free. They want to do the right and good things. And that's all the people that are souls that are joining GPMS.world. This is for the people. Yeah, I don't need it myself. I might look like just a common guy, but you can't read the book by its cover. Really, I'm an ascended master, and I say that because I don't die and I can leave this reality at any time when my divine mission is complete. And I know that. So there is no fear with what I have. But, we're here to do this, and each in their own time. And I witness more coming to know that themselves as well, that their divine identity, or at least their divine role here upon earth at this time.
You mentioned that some people are getting infiltrated. There's something I've noticed. I don't know if you're familiar with the Dracos or any of the Archons or any of that kind of stuff. But what's your thought on that? Because I see it a lot. I mean, I know a lot of people have Draco lineages in them and other lineage of other ET races, Lyrians, Syrians, all that stuff. But I feel like there is a lot of spiritual people that are very high up on the ladder. A lot of people watch, and when they get to that level, sometimes they get infiltrated. What's your thought on that?
Well, my thoughts on that, anyone that's high up on the ladder, if you will, in the full in their full worth, they do not become infiltrated. But again, it depends on the individual. Is it a imposter? Is it a um, is it oh, what's the word? But I'll just leave that and I'll go back to say that the way that it is that you had third dimensional Earth, if you will. Then you had the fourth dimensional component where the nefarious ETs like the Dracos and reptilians come from. But then you have the other dimensions. You have the fifth dimension. That's why we use this analogy, the fifth dimension, where they cannot exist in because of what they are. They have nefarious ill intent. The fifth dimensional space, and to use this analogy, there is no ill intent, no nefarious, no evil can exist in it. So, what was occurring in 2012, November the 18th to the 23rd of linear time, all of 3D space collapsed. Then humanity, the human souls, were put up into the fourth dimensional space where the archons, the nefarious archons, were deriving their power from to enslave humanity. And then from there, what we have been doing is with ones that we're able to are raising into uh, the fifth dimensional state of being and consciousness, which puts them above any suppression or oppression from the darkness theirself. So, having said this, a draconian and reptilians are very, very real. The first time I saw one, I was, I had the question, are they real? And still with being on earth, there's still a degree of naivety with I. So, I asked Father innocently, and I never got an answer on it, but then I had the experience when I was assisting one that was an alien abductee. They got very angry, and yes, there was an actual physical reptilian outside of my camper began to shake it. But I had no fear. And with this, what was funny is when I realized it was in the nighttime, I wanted to go out to confront it, and this thing is about, I'm 6 foot or 6'1", but this thing was about 9 feet tall. But I am divine and I have no fear. And, it's a reptilian looking creature. So I go out to confront it. But as I began to go out, just before I went out, I looked at my window, had eye contact, and then it began to weaken. When I went outside, it was gone. And I look up, I say, Father, what happened? I wanted to see it and see what was going on. And Father's words were, it cannot remain in your light. Once you made that eye contact with it, because we are the superior beings, the souls, and it could not remain there. But the thing is, yes, reptilians are real. But you asked an important question, Thomas, and just to put that, let's say there was hybrids that had occurred, but that's all been taken care of on a divine level. That those hybrids that were also human souls on the divine level, the reptilian DNA was given up, and they would ascend. Now there was a few small reptilian rebel holdout groups, but if they interfere with the overall ascension in any nefarious way, they're taken off the planet as we go forward. So that's being taken care of by the off-world crew, if you will.
Yeah, I've battled a lot of archons and trackers. just working with people. I've always been able to see dark things since I've been a kid. Angels, demons, or whatever you wish to call them. But
Yeah.
archons, Dracos, all kinds of stuff. Sometimes when I'm working on people, I'll just pull them off and throw them in different places. But yeah, I don't think people realize just how prevalent it is. It's kind of like the hungry ghost thing in Oriental culture where they connect to people. I have to remove those a lot too. But yeah, I don't think people quite see all that. A friend of mine, she was in a bar and she actually said this to me like a couple years ago. She was like, "Are these squid creatures I'm seeing flying all over the bar?" And I was like, "Yeah, those are the archons. Yeah, these people are getting drunk and they're probably feeding off of it somehow."
Mm.
Well, yeah, absolutely. A bar is the idea environment for it, you know, and it
Yeah.
weakens the human consciousness with the alcohol. Yeah, and it opens up the venues because they lower as soon as when someone drinks, they lower their vibration is what occurs, and then yes, they can become the invitation, and unbeknownst to them in the past, you know, be infiltrated, if you will, to some degree by that uh, other lower consciousness, at least. But
Is that
yeah,
why some people say they blacked out and they can't remember what they did because they were inhabited, shall we say, they were possessed or whatever by another form, another spirit.
absolutely. In the past, and I know Thomas could attest with this, with the exorcism, there are times, yes, that in the past they were taken over. But again, you know, we look at the reasons why one was able to be taken over. And when you look at it, it is the fear, what they have, it is even their diet. And, you know, in the foods and everything, what the darkness was doing is putting nanobots and what have you, you know, into all of this. But once the individual becomes knowledgeable and aware of their conscious ability, you render all of the effects of any of that nefarious, whatever you wish to call it. So, you know, it is a game with it as well, with the consciousness. And again, you got to have the full trust and full belief to be able to render these lesser density things inoperable.
Yeah,
But
and
still, but still, you know, with this physical vessel, I say I'm an ascended master, a very advanced soul. But what I need to say also, I need to also, with this physical vessel, be responsible to it. I don't eat meat. I don't eat junk. I don't drink alcohol. You know, there still is that degree of responsibility to these physical vessels because the physical vessels are also evolving into the crystalline. And this is true. I have crystals at times that come out of me, and many others can attest that this is very real in the luminescence. And
that's
so,
interesting. So, do you consider not eating meat to be beneficial for the human body?
absolutely, yes, because your DNA is evolving. If you look at anything that you eat, the most minute portion of that is the DNA. So if you're eating, for example, meat, um, and that DNA has a lower consciousness even, but it has a fear imprint into it. But it also, in that DNA, any animal cares for their young, so they have unconditional love in there. So you also could look at being cannibalistic by doing this, which then begins to go against, you know, one of the prime directives, if you will, thou shall not kill. And this is part of the one of the parts of the reasons for it. But getting back to the DNA, your DNA is evolving. That is true. So common sense would say you're taking this human vessel, you're evolving it into a more advanced form. Why would you bring an animal DNA in there to prolong, slow down, or contaminate that process? So
Mm.
when you metaphysically look at what's going on, yes, it is an excellent idea for ones when it's time to stop eating the meat, because what occurs as well, it's part of their process. And let me say, this physical vessel, I always ate meat until I was awakened, and
Mm.
then speaking with Father, and he says no, and gives me all the information why. And
Mm.
and it is very important and very real. So you have ones that are still eating meat, but what will occur is they will stop that, and they will become vegetarian or vegan or what
Mm.
have you. And if you use Canada, I think, as an example, I haven't checked lately, but if you take Canada from the year 2000 until the year uh, 2015, what you see is vegetarians
Mm.
becoming a bigger portion percentage of the population. And this is also in conjunction with the Great Awakening, and it's also an indicator of that transitioning um, of the physical vessels. And
Mm.
also with this, every child that's born, you know, even prior to 2011, they always take their blood, and what they look for in their blood is that unknown component, but it's in the plasma of the blood, but it's
Mm.
also crystalline. They know what it is. So that
Mm.
was in the new children, and this is also one of the
Right.
things they were looking for.
Oh, really? Mm, okay, that's cool. Um, right, we just gone past the hour mark. Thomas, you got any more questions for Rick?
No, I'm good, brother. I'm good.
Mm.
Appreciate you being over.
Yes, thank you so much, Rick, for coming on, agreeing to come on with us. If you want to, would you like to just remind everyone where we can find you, and let us know if you got anything coming up?
Oh, right. Well, Rick Jors on Facebook. I am also on Telegram. I have a channel on there. Um, you'll find me if you go to Facebook. You'll find me
Mm.
on Telegram. You'll see from time to time I put up the links to the channel on
Cool.
gpms.world. If um, there is an email on there for but what I ask is only ones that are playing a role in gpms.world to email me
Mm.
through there. But mainly Facebook is
Mm.
where ones can find me.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you again, Rick, for coming on. It was a pleasure to have you, and thank you everyone for joining. Thomas, sorry, what you got coming up? I know you
I have
normally
a
have something.
class working with energy this Sunday at 8 p.m. It's at thomasware.com.
Excellent. Right, thank you both,
Excellent.
and thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see you soon.
Love,
Au
light,
revoir.
and gratitude.